drummers, Dennis here. Since we've been doing some of these online Zoom lessons, I have been able to hear your personal drums for the first time. And I have to say, some of your snare drums are a little bit rough. So we're doing a video today talking about how you can make your snare drum sound better. Now, I have my snare drum here in front of me, and I have altered it to where it sounds like what I'm hearing from a lot of your snare drums. So I'm going to hit it so you can get an idea what I'm talking about. So you hear that sort of dead sound, and we could probably go even further towards making it sound not so great, but you're getting more of that kind of thing. Needless to say, we need to tweak them. So here's what we're going to do. Most of your drum sets should have come with this thing. This is called a drum key. It's got a little square notch in the bottom of it, and that is used to turn the lugs that go around your drum. So most of the problem that most of you are having is that you pulled the drum out of the box. It wasn't tightened really at all when you set it up and started playing it. It's fine, totally understandable. You didn't know, but now you're gonna. So here's what you want to do. You want to set up the drum in front of you, much like I have now. This is about where I play mine, maybe a touch lower. But what we're going to do is make sure, I'm going to go around and make sure that all of these lugs around the top are tight. And as you see, I'm just turning it with my fingers. I'm not using the drum key yet. So, but as I go around, I've loosened mine up a lot here. So that you can kind of hear what I'm hearing. I'm going around and making sure that all of these lugs are finger tight. If you hear some crackling while this is going on, that's your head being tightened for the first time, and that's okay. The epoxy that's used in the drum head will snap, crackle, pop a little bit as you're tightening that head, and that is okay. It's stretching out, and that's exactly what you want it to do. So once you make sure that all of the lugs around the drum are finger tight, you want to start at a lug. I always start at this lug right here. That's just what makes sense to me. My snare drum has 10 lugs on it. Yours may have 8, but mine has 10. So just make sure you're counting to whatever the maximum number is as you go around, and you'll see why here in a second. So what I'm going to do is take my drum key and put it on, and my drum key is lining up just like this, so along the head of the drum key. And I'm going to turn it a half turn. Just like that, turn it halfway around. Then I'm going to go across to this leg. So this is 1, now this is 2. I'm going to do a half turn. Now I'll go here. This is 3, again half turn. 4, 5, 6. Now if you get to a leg and it's not finger tight anymore, go ahead and finger tighten it. And keep doing those half turns. Like that one's not finger tight anymore. Half turn, once it is tight, I'm going here, half turn. Now I've gone all the way around the drum, just going crisscrossing, going across from each other. Still sounds kind of rough. So we're going to keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Getting a little better. If you're getting a lot of that rattly snare sound, that is probably because the snares that run under the drum, those are too loose. So we'll cover how to tighten those up in a minute. I'm going to go one more time around on this head, doing again just half turns as I go. And again, if this is the first time your head's really been tightened, then you're going to get a lot of little snap, crackle, pop, there's one, you heard one, from your head as you tighten it. Again, that's the glue, the epoxy that they use to put the head together, cracking, and that's okay. Now, we've gone and we did 3 half turns, so 1.5 total turns on each lug. We're going to leave it there for just a second. You may still hear it crack, but we're going to talk about this snare underneath. So these are your snare wires, and I think we probably talked about these briefly maybe on your first lesson, but we hadn't looked at them again since then. They're little chains that are pulled across the bottom of your drum. On one side of your snare drum, they're connected over here. This is called a butt plate. Ha ha ha. It's called a butt plate, and that's where your snare stops. There's no adjustments on most drums on this side, but on the other side, you have the snare throw off. Okay, and with the snare throw off, you have two adjustments. You have this lever up here that you push down like this, and it goes on like that. That actually loosens these all the way, and you can see down there that they're not up against the head anymore. And if you hit the drum, you don't hear them up against the head anymore. Okay, but if you pull it back up, they're up against the head. They're still really loose, and I'll show you how to fix that. These are not standard. Some of them pull out like that, so just figure out which one yours does, and mess with it for a second and see how that works. So, but the snares on this drum are super loose right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the snares off, just throw it off like that, and then there's a knob right here. Some knobs are on the front and turn this way. This one's on the top. So I'm going to turn this clockwise. And when I do, that actually tightens the snares on the bottom. I don't know if you can see it, but they are getting closer to the head. So that when I turn it back on, and it should feel harder to turn on, tightening up a little bit. So I'm going to throw it off, give it another turn or so. You will eventually not be able to turn this anymore, and that's okay. See where you get with it. See what it sounds like. Now, once you've tightened that up, you're going to get a better sound. Put the drum back in the stand and put it back the direction that you had it, so you remember where your first lug is. And hit it. It should hopefully already start to sound a little bit better. At least passable enough for one of these videos or for our continued lessons. If you're not liking the way it sounds, you may want to do another half turn all the way around, and that's what I'm going to do with this drum. I'm just going to do one more half turn around. And that's getting closer to what I like on my snare. So we've only done 2 or 4 sets of half turns, so 2 full turns on each leg. Not a lot. You don't have to crank it. And that varies by drum, but certainly with most drums, you're not interested in cranking it. That's really all you're going for. Now, once we get that, we want to do what's called tuning the drum. So now you don't tune drums the same way you tune guitars or pianos. They don't get tuned to a pitch. So you're not going to press C on the piano and try to make your drum a C. It doesn't work that way, or at least it doesn't work that well with most drums. There are drums you can tune to a pitch. They're called timpani, and those are used more in an orchestral setting, kettle drums, sort of the boom, 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 that kind of thing. So that's what you're going for there with timpani. But to tune this, what we're going to do is we're going to turn the snare off again. So we're going to throw that down, the throw off that we looked at before. Take your stick, and you're going to tap maybe an inch, maybe a little less than that, just right in front of each lug. Listen. You can kind of sing the pitch. Something like that. Then you'll go across to that lug and see if they sound the same. Do it for each one. If they sound pretty close, then you're probably close to being in tune. And really all that means is that the head is resonating together. You don't have one lug way tighter or even a little bit tighter than the others, so that the head kind of resonates differently. You don't want it to be tighter in one section generally than you do in another. Now there's a lot of different theories behind tuning. Mine is, if you get it close, you're probably close. You can kind of hear in the sound a little bit of a warble. Problem is one of the lugs is a little bit off, one or more, so I'm just going to tweak a couple that sound strange to me over here. I don't know if you can hear it on the video, but... Once you get that done, now remember, we play snare drum in the center most of the time, right? Just hit it, see where it's at. You can turn your throw off back on. Now, I like a little bit looser snares. I think I tighten these all the way up, so I'm going to loosen it just a little bit. Something like that, so that when you and then your snare drum sounds good. So one more thing, I didn't mention the bottom head on the snare drum. I've turned it over so you can see it. The bottom heads are thinner than the top heads. They are breakable by just tightening them. So you don't want to go crazy with this, but if the snare drum still isn't sounding good, what you're going to want to do is give that bottom head a tweak. You may want to tweak it just, maybe 1 or 2 half turns all the way around like what we did with the top. Now, typically on my drums, I like the top, or the bottom head rather, tighter than the top head. But it's easier to get this tighter because it's thinner, so you don't have to work so hard quite on this one. If you do break it, they're not expensive to replace. You're talking about 20 bucks tops. Just bring the new head and the drum to your lesson, and we can do it in the lesson. It's pretty educational, and we can go over how to do that. If you have questions about doing anything with your snare drum, feel free to reach out. Also, once we're back in the saddle here and everybody's showing up for their lessons and we're sort of past some of this video lesson thing, we're going to do a snare drum week where everybody's going to bring their snare drum in and we're going to tweak your drums. But this video was just so you could get it sounding better at home. So feel free to make those changes. And again, if you have questions, always feel free to reach out. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.